welcome to a special edition of Legal Curve Hockey, presenting some interviews. We're doing this during our summer hiatus with some of the Jets and Moose players. Our most recent guest will be Morgan Barron, who of course was acquired by the Winnipeg Jets this season. So Morgan, how's it going, and how's your offseason going?
It's going well, thanks. Off-season's been good. Obviously it's been getting a little long. I'm excited to get back to Winnipeg and get started with everything. But, so far no complaints. I think it's been good to kind of step away from the game for a little bit and obviously keep training, skating and stuff. But, I've had no complaints. It's been good.
Have you gotten up to anything exciting when you had a chance to take the skates off, get away from the rink a little bit?
Did a little bit of traveling, like right when the off season kind of kicked in. But after that first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I kind of got settled in back home. Got to spend some time with family. It's been a busy couple of years, and I haven't got to spend as much time with them as I would have liked, just with COVID, especially being in the U.S. before. It was a little tougher for them to get across the border. So that's been my main takeaway. It's been nice to come home and spend some time with mom and dad and my brother as well.
Well, now that you've had some time to reflect on the big trade that brought you to Winnipeg, what are your thoughts about it? Because, we always tend to focus on this stuff when it happens, and then in the moment it kind of gets forgotten because you're in a busy season. But now that you've had some time to reflect on it, this is your first trade at the pro level. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, the whole situation. I mean, I wasn't necessarily expecting it. It kind of came out of the blue. I guess you always know something may go on at the trade deadline. But I certainly wasn't sitting around all day waiting for my phone to ring. Reflecting on it, I think it was probably a really good thing for me personally that it did happen. It was great for me to get a fresh start. I thought I played some of my best hockey during the season after getting traded and getting a little stability, getting some time with the Moose and then a decent stretch with the Jets and then back with the Moose. It was just a lot easier to find a rhythm rather than going up and down every 2-3 weeks. I did a lot of that in New York before being traded. So I'm really glad the way things worked out, and it's obviously a really good group of guys who are in that Jets organization right now. So that's part of the reason I'm so excited to get back.
Well, we knew one of the guys you're very connected to, and I'll ask you about him in a second. But what did you know about Winnipeg before the trade? I mean, obviously you're from Halifax, so you're Canadian. But what do you know about Winnipeg, the city? What did you know about Winnipeg, the organization, in advance of your trade?
Yeah, I didn't know a ton. I didn't play in Winnipeg, but I had traveled and was a healthy scratch with the Rangers for a game there. So we got to spend a night there, got to see a game at the rink, unfortunately from the press box at the time, but nonetheless got to watch the teams play. And I was a little bit familiar with it from that. Just from being Canadian, obviously they're on TV a lot, and you see how passionate the fans are. It's a hockey city for sure. You could see how excited everybody was when the Jets came back. I remember that when the organization moved back there. So, I heard all good things about it. I have quite a few friends who grew up in Winnipeg or are from Winnipeg as well, and they were obviously all super pumped when I got traded there. So, it was all positive stuff. I know it's obviously a little bit colder and a little different, but that's not something I necessarily mind. So, I've got to explore the city a little bit in my first 2 months there at the end of the season, but I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more of that once I get back and get settled this year.
Well, one guy we have to mention, of course, that you immediately probably thought of when you heard Winnipeg was Jeff Malott, who was your co-captain and teammate at Cornell for 3 seasons. So how exciting was it for you to think about Jeff and being, playing able to play pro hockey with him?
Yeah, I was so excited about that part. Outside of my family, I think he was the first person I texted. Just to let him know I'd be coming. And, I can't, it's hard for me to explain how much easier he made the process for me. I mean, it's obviously difficult going into a room of, 20 to 30 new guys, new coaches, staff, everything. And, he did so much to make that process as easy as possible for me. And even still going through the summer, I feel like I've probably annoyed him enough times asking him all these questions about what camp is like and what the living arrangements are for next year and all that stuff. So, he's been a great outlet for me. And on a personal level, I mean, it's just so fun to spend time with him. He's such an exuberant person and a great character. And, just one of those people everybody wants to be around. So for me, I was really excited to get back and spend some time with him.
And speaking of a guy who everybody kind of roots for, how excited were you personally when you saw him make his NHL debut last season with the Jets?
Oh, it was awesome. So excited for him. He worked so hard. He absolutely deserved that. And, I think there'll be a lot more games for him in the future. He's one of those people who's just worked his way up. And, 5, 6, 7 years ago, a lot of people probably wouldn't have said that was in the cards for him at the time. But, it's just a credit to how hard he's worked. And, He's a really good player. I think he's going to be someone who's going to be really productive at the pro level for a long time.
Morgan, one of those things that you mentioned was that, Jeff made it easier. He facilitated your integration into the room. But one of the things we've talked about with his Moose team is how inclusive they are. And I suspect that even if Jeff wasn't part of it, they would have welcomed you in with open arms, because that just seems to be the way this group is the composition of this group. But did you find that, obviously Jeff gave you a helping hand, but did you find that this group was extraordinarily welcoming when they brought you in?
Yeah, I did find that. I mean, my first night in town, I met the team in Rockford, and I think they dragged me out to dinner with, I think, 10 to 15 guys right away. So they threw me into the mix. For myself, I know I can be a little standoffish sometimes, so they did such a good job of just getting me involved right away, and it made it so easy for me. I remember sitting there at the first dinner, and I hadn't played against the Moose, so as familiar as I was, I followed the sport, but I'd check in on their stats every once in a while to see how Jeff was doing online. And so I'd recognize a lot of the names, but just sitting there trying to figure out who everybody was a challenge in and of itself. But, within a day or two, everyone was so good about it, and getting on the ice with them, it was really fun. And, that I would say those emotions kind of carried over for me, even then when I got sent back down after the playoffs. Like, I was excited to go back and play with those guys and compete. And obviously we came up a little bit short, but it was still fun to spend the time with them nonetheless.
When you talk about the living arrangements, how, like, it's funny, it's from a layperson's perspective. How do you decide that? Do you say, okay, am I going to live with Jeff? Am I going to who comes up to that with that conclusion? Do you decide? Does the team facilitate that for you? How does it work?
I've spent a lot of time in hotels in the past year. I know in New York and Hartford this year, I was back and forth between hotels. You usually need to wait until you get a housing letter from the team, which essentially tells you to search housing, and that's when you can set up a place yourself. And I never got one of those while I was in New York, because I was just bouncing back and forth so much. Spent a lot of time in a hotel. Spent a little bit more time in a hotel in Winnipeg when I got there, and then I was able to get just a short-term rental for the last month I was there. So no, I mean, guys do all sorts of different things. Whether it's living in apartments, living in houses. I think it kind of depends on their family situation, whether they have pets, all those types of things. But for me personally, I'll just get to Winnipeg, and like I said, I started to get my bearings last year, but I hadn't fully figured everything out. So I think that'll kind of be one of the first steps I get going, and when I start exploring the city in a few weeks here.
So what was it like for you when you actually put on the Moose jersey, and you like you said, you got traded in March and then came to you played, I think, 5 games in 7 days with the Moose. Obviously, previously you'd played with the Rangers and the Wolfpack. So was it strange to put on a new jersey for the first time in your pro career?
Yeah, it was really weird. I mean, you always hear about how fast things happen and how it's a whirlwind when you get traded, but until you go through it, it's kind of hard to understand. One day you're putting on a certain color, and then the next day you're halfway across the country and you're putting on a different color, playing a different division, all new teammates. So it was a lot, and I know I met them on the back end of a road trip, and I don't think I wasn't satisfied with those first 2 games probably I played with them. It was just a lot for me to handle, and I don't think the team was too happy with our effort as a whole too. I think we lost both of them, if I remember correctly. So it was a lot to handle, but I think once I got back to Winnipeg and settled in for a few days, I think my play really took a turn, and then obviously getting the call up, whatever it was, a week later, and then I think things kind of took off as I got a little more comfortable.
Well, and what was it like for you hearing a new message from a new coaching staff, right? Mark Morrison, for years here, it was Pascal Vincent was the head coach, and Mark Morrison took over for him, and players seem to have thrived under both these head coaches here in Manitoba. So what was it like for you when you had a new voice, and Mark Morrison and Marty Johnston and Eric Dubois?
Yeah, they were awesome. It didn't take me long to realize once I got there that guys were very complimentary of them. Guys seemed very excited to be playing for them, and that goes a long way. I think you can see it in the way the team played. Guys are willing to listen and to kind of build upon the things the coaching staff wants you to build upon. And I've obviously talked about how easy the team made my integration, but I think that carries right across to the coaching staff as well. They did everything they could to make sure I felt comfortable, to make sure I knew the systems. If I ever had questions or anything like that, they did a great job of helping me work through that. And they're also pretty understanding of my situation coming in and trying to play a game. Within a day or two of meeting all the new teammates. So I'm very grateful for them making my transition easy as well.
Did you notice a big difference, just from the AHL perspective? Did you notice a big difference in the style? Because we often don't see here when you're focusing on the Central. Sometimes you'll see some of the Canadian Pacific teams, or you'll see the Canadian Eastern teams that come over here, but you generally don't see Hartford. You don't see a lot of those teams out east. So did you notice a big difference in the style of game between what they play out on the East Coast versus here in the Central?
Honestly, not a ton. I mean, I think everyone would probably agree Chicago was the best team in the AHL. They won, so
Yeah.
seeing them play, I think you realize right away they're at a different level. And the one game I got against them, we actually played really well and took them to overtime, I think. And I think we should have won that game. So we were definitely a team that could have kept up with them. And,
Yeah.
but yeah, no. In terms of the style of play, I don't think there's a ton of difference across. Whether out east, out west, it's not too different in my opinion, at least.
So a week goes by, or whatever the time frame was, and you get the recall up to the Jets, and I think you made your debut against the Leafs. So what was that like in Toronto? So what was that like for you? Anything memorable from the game? Anything that sticks out to you from your Winnipeg debut?
Yeah, the day itself was crazy. I mean, we played the night before with the Moose, and I think I got told after the game I was going up, so my flight was scheduled for like 7 a.m. and then I got to the airport, it got delayed like 4 hours, and then we sat in the tarmac in Toronto for a few hours. So it was it was a lot. Like I got to the hotel, and everyone was just waking up for their pregame nap, so I got to meet people super quickly, and I ran upstairs to my room, showered, changed, and then within like 20 minutes, I was back out the door to the rink. So that day was crazy. It was a whirlwind. It was a lot, but no, it was fun. I mean, that was the first time I had gotten to play in Toronto. I went to prep school there. I got to see a few games when I was there as well. So it was a fun place to play. The game didn't go quite as well as we wanted, but it was just exciting to get the call and to go through and have another chance to meet 20 more players, 25 more players, and a whole new staff as well.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of new cell phone numbers and you're meeting a lot of new faces. But is that something that you have family attend, or because it's Toronto, obviously, and your family's based in Halifax? So would they come to something like that? Obviously, it's not your NHL debut, but still, it's a significant moment in your career.
They were going to try to come to that. I mean, it was just so last minute, they couldn't figure it out. And
Right.
wasn't sure for sure if I was going to be playing or not. But they actually never were able to get down and see me play an NHL game just because the borders were so bad. So It wasn't until after that they came to our game against Montreal a few weeks later. They were trying to come. They do their best, but it's obviously pretty difficult last minute when you're going up and down.
Well, I mean, if I recall correctly, that was the game you had a goal and an assist. So it was a pretty good game for them to catch the Montreal contest in the Bell Center.
Yeah, they're excited. My brother obviously got traded to Montreal at the deadline as well.
Right.
So they're hoping to see us play each other. He unfortunately got hurt a few days before. But nonetheless, I think they just had a blast coming to the game and kind of seeing me, have a good game and enjoy myself and just have a ton of fun out there. So it was a fun experience for me, but I think they probably enjoyed it even more.
Is there added pressure on you? Like when your family's in the crowd, they've watched you probably 1,000 times as a kid and even as a maybe, in college. But when you're actually playing your first pro game in front of your family, what's the mentality?
I don't think it changes too much. Honestly, I think playing against my brother, that would have been a little bit different. There's obviously a little bit higher stakes for us going into the summer and stuff. But for them, no. I mean, like, obviously they're there in person. It's a little bit different, but they sit there and watch all my games at home. Most of the time, my dad will rewatch all of them and watch my shifts and stuff. So they follow very closely, regardless whether it's being there in person or being at home. But I know they're just super excited this year to hopefully get out to more games.
Now, do you think your family is going to do the kind of split jersey sort of thing? So it'll be a half Montreal, half Winnipeg jersey. I know that back in the day, Ryan Miller's mom used to do that, where when he played for the Red Wings, his brother Drew Miller. No, he played for the Sabres or the Ducks. And his brother Drew Miller played for the Red Wings. His mom used to do the little split jersey thing. So your family might have to do that with a Winnipeg Montreal jersey.
Yeah, I can see my mom maybe doing that. I don't know if she'll be able to get my dad in one of the jerseys, but we'll have to see.
Are you the kind of guy, speaking of jerseys, do you keep mementos? Do you keep like your first Jets goal puck? Do you keep your first Jets, jersey, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I have a couple of jerseys. I think most of it kind of gets shuffled into my parents or people like that. But I like ideally having one or two jerseys from the teams I played for. Us, being on two different teams. But Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they're just tucked away in a closet somewhere right now. But hopefully, when it's all said and done, it'll be kind of cool to look back and see all the different teams, and hopefully not too many more teams, but see all the different places and just kind of reflect on your journey.
Yeah. That seems to be a consistent answer with everyone I've talked to. Nobody's really
Yeah.
like creating shrines for themselves just yet. It's something that you'll maybe do when you're more you're closer to my age and not your age. But
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so you played 18 games with the Rangers, you played 14 NHL games with the Jets. So it's obviously you're relatively new-ish in your NHL journey. But has anything stood out to you? Have you had any kind of like I'm in the NHL moments yet? And that could apply to both on the ice and off the ice.
I mean, like my first game at the end of, I guess, the last season, with the Rangers. I mean, I remember that just being kind of a crazy moment. And you go out there and there's, tons of fans in the building. I guess that was at the COVID time, so it was a little bit different. But yeah, I don't know if there was one single moment that was, wow, this is it. I'm here.
Mhm.
To be honest, I think having gone up and down as much as I have, I haven't really wanted to sit back and look at it and think, wow, I'm in the NHL, because it seems like if you do that, a few days later, something happens. So, obviously my goal would be to be able to have that moment at a training camp and play a full year this year. And, I think that's something that's in front of me, but until that happens, I don't think there'll be too much looking back and reflecting, trying to, yeah.
And well, okay, but I won't ask you to reflect too much. But how exciting was it to make to play NHL hockey at MSG?
Yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously got to take part in some pretty fun games there, and just playing that rink is so cool with all the history in it. And I've been very lucky. I've got to play in front of two like super passionate fan bases, and in New York and Winnipeg, and very different atmospheres. I think in Winnipeg, everything's centered around the hockey, and then in New York, it's just so big that you're gonna have your diehard fans. So it was pretty cool. I'm very grateful I've got to experience both of them, and we've talked about at the end of the day sitting back and reflecting on my hockey journey when it's all said and done. But even doing it here myself, sometimes it's pretty neat that I've got to really experience what I would consider different ends of the spectrum in pro hockey.
So you mentioned your brother, and obviously he was traded from the Avs to Montreal on the at the trade deadline. How excited are you? I mean, I know you're not penciling yourself in or penning yourself into an NHL roster spot. Maybe he isn't either, but you still have to think about it. Still, that's your goal. That's your desire. So, I mean, you mentioned it. What would it be like to go up against him? When was the last time you even played, a hockey against him in any capacity? And I know the Jets play Montreal, I believe, here for the preseason, and then the first game I think is early November in Montreal. So, have you allowed yourself to think about what it'd be like to go up against him? And again, like I said, what was it like? When was the last time you actually faced him?
Yeah. So it is. We've obviously thought about it and talked about it. I think we obviously have work to do in training camp, but I think both of our expectations and ourselves is that we're going to go make those teams. So we're excited. I think that November 4th game is in Winnipeg. My parents are obviously fingers crossed, and they're hoping to get out to that as long as everything goes well for both of us. But yeah, we've never really played against each other. Like, I obviously went and played college. He played major junior here. And, there was one time when the Avs were playing the Rangers, and I got sent down like 2 days earlier, and then he got called up and played his first game. So that was like a close call. And then, of course, the one at the end of the year when it was Winnipeg, Montreal, was another close call where he got hurt a few days before. So, yeah, I mean, we're hoping it's going to work out and we'll get to play a lot of games against each other moving forward. But yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, we compete against each other all the time. We skate together a lot in the summers, and typically we're going against each other in our summer skates as much as possible. So it'll be fun to play against them. I know it'll be a little extra juice for us both in that game, and just wanted to have the bragging rights over each other.
For sure. Now, you said you went down to the Moose, obviously, after the NHL Jets season had ended. And Mark Morrison, one of the things he's talked about is the fact that playoff hockey is just a different animal, right? And, you have it in college, but it's different element in college because usually they're one-offs, right? You don't have that sort of series expectation. But what did you learn from it? Because like I said, he said 2 rounds is like playing a full season because you gain so much valuable experience for yourself, for young players. So what did you personally learn from the playoff experience? Obviously, the Moose came up short, but you guys had your backs against the wall against Milwaukee, down 0-2, and forced it to a game 5.
Yeah. I think the obvious answer is how hard it is to score. Especially those first 2 games we had on the road. Like we only scored the 1 goal in 2 games, and I think as much as we can look back on the game 5 as being a little bit disappointing, to me it's those first 2 games where we dug ourselves in a really deep hole coming home and knowing we needed to win 3 straight. So there's just less space out there. You might play a regular season game and it feels like you have a ton of scoring opportunities, and in the playoffs it feels like that's just shrink down. You're going to have way fewer opportunities to score. So you got to take advantage when your opportunities do come. I would say the other thing was how familiar you get with the team. Like you're playing them. I mean, our series was 3 to 5, so it's even less games than what you would expect in a 4 to 7. But pretty much after 1 game, most of their tendencies. And sometimes it doesn't even take that much because you're pre-scheduling them before the series starts anyway. So it kind of feels like there's no tricks. You're not pulling anything over anybody. Like it's just going out there and playing hockey, and kind of who wants it more. We were disappointed we came up short. I felt like we were the better team through most of the series, but that's what it comes down to. You got to be able to capitalize on your chances, and we probably didn't do that enough. And then there's also times where we were giving up too many chances and just digging ourselves in holes. So it's valuable experiences that I think all of us will learn from if we played in there.
Well, Morgan, you were lucky to not be here in Winnipeg to start the season, because you would have been sick of Milwaukee by the end of it, because I think it was 17 times, 12 in the regular season,
Crazy.
5 in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's like, think about it. It's almost like half a season for you in college, isn't it? Like you guys maybe play like 36 games or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I felt like I got to know them, but I can't even imagine for the rest of the guys. 17 is a lot of hockey against one team.
Yeah, no question. Now, you talked about goal scoring, and you seem to have some success in the playoffs scoring goals. I believe 4 straight games with a goal for the Moose. So what kind of confidence does that breed? Because, you're a goal scorer, guys, you're a forward, guys want to score goals, and obviously want to contribute and want to be responsible defensively, but you need to be able to put the puck in the back of the net. So what was it like knowing that your team, when they needed a goal, could rely on you to be that guy, especially like you said, where it's harder to even score goals?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely confidence building. There's still a few more instances where I wish I had been able to pop one more, but I mean, it was a journey. I think this is a season where, like I said, I was going up and down a lot, so it's hard to get in a rhythm. A lot earlier in the season, but having that opportunity, being sent down, and obviously the Jets season was over, so I knew I would be down there until the season was over. So, I just felt like I got to get in a rhythm, and that just built my confidence. And obviously it would have been fun to play a few more rounds and play deeper in the playoffs, but I did feel like going into the summer, I'd been in a pretty good spot where I'd finished off and played some pretty good hockey. But, like I said, my goal is to be able to do that at the NHL level moving forward this season and kind of have that translate over.
So with that in mind, what was the kind of the message, whether it was from the Jets or the Moose, for your summer? What was the kind of the area that they really wanted you to focus on, to work on? Or was it something that you yourself kind of came to a conclusion and said, okay, I need to work on X?
I don't think there's anything like in particular that they had pointed to. I think the main message was just like come in and be ready for training camp. Come in and take a job and make sure that you're ready to go. And it's obviously a whole new coaching staff in that team. So it's just really trying to prove myself once again. It kind of feels like a wash, but I don't think there's any. It wasn't too finicky of what this one thing you should work on, this thing you shouldn't work on. Like, you're just coming out and having a good summer and making sure you're in shape. And I feel like everything's gone really well so far. So I'm excited.
When I would talk to guys on the Moose or the Jets, but a lot of times the Moose, the classic answer was bigger, faster, stronger. And I was like, okay, guys,
that kind of encompasses it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, I get it. That's pretty much everybody's standard cliche. But
Yeah.
do you find though at this level, and you've been playing pro now for a few years and obviously with college, that when you have your summers, you can tweak things? There are ways to still make those improvements, whether it's, as like I said, as cliche as it is, to get faster or to get stronger, like things that you can do that, like, oh, I wasn't doing this last summer, I can integrate this into my workout and I'll be able to be better for it next year.
Yeah. I mean, like I'll give you some examples of on the ice stuff that we spent some time working on, is like picking pucks up off the wall. Whether it's picking up rims out of your own end, we would spend a ton of time doing like a wrap behind the net, picking it up, and then either if it's a defender there or like a stick handling, one of the little sticks you stick handle around, like being able to pick up a puck off the wall and then attack the net quickly is like one little thing that we spent a ton of time on. Even things like picking up passes on your backhand. Like if it's a hard pass coming across the ice, how quickly can you catch that puck and bring it to your forehand and get a shot off, or bring it to a place where you can make another play and find a seam to make a pass. So there's tons of little skills. I feel like we've done a good job this year. I mean, we're really lucky. We have a good group of skaters and great coaches to run our skills here in the summer in Halifax. So we've had a pretty good setup of usually one day a week is skills, and then the rest of the skates are more game situations, whether it be battle drills or playing 3-on-3 or 5-on-5, whatever it is. So we've been really lucky that we've had some good skates, and I feel like a lot of those little skills are things that should translate over to the real game situations.
Morgan, one of the things you mentioned just a few minutes ago was the idea that there's a new coaching staff. So does that, and you said it is kind of like a clean slate, right? I mean, it seems like the team is essentially bringing back a lot of the same personnel, but there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of guys like, David Gustafson, yourself, guys who are ready to take that next step, guys who are ready to seize a role. Do you feel like that's that? I mean, not to say that you didn't have that chance, because obviously you played a long stretch with the Jets anyways, but is that kind of that mentality now that, hey, I can seize a job here, I'm not going to let them go, but also the fact that there's a new coaching staff in place kind of gives you that fresh start for everyone?
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, it's something I'm kind of used to. I've played for 5 different coaching staffs in a year, and really a year and a half of pro hockey now because the shortened season. So, um, yeah, I guess I don't really know any other way. I feel like I've come in every year and had new coaches, and hopefully this would be the end of that, where you kind of settle in and have a coach for a little while. But yeah, I do think that there's definitely opportunity for a lot of us there. And generally speaking, I think most training camps, everyone goes in with a blank sheet, and you got to kind of prove to everyone watching and everyone making the decisions that you're the right fit to take a job. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I think it's exciting times, and all the players and by the sounds of it, the coaches as well are really optimistic about the trajectory of the organization. So it should be a lot of fun.
And is that one thing sometimes people from the outside don't necessarily understand, right? I mean, so many times prognostications are, oh, this team is going to do X. And, they're wrong. They could be wrong. Most of them are wrong because only one team really wins. But I think sometimes teams get written off, especially early. And is that I don't want to say, is there a chip on the shoulder, but is that kind of the attitude this team says, listen, like you guys were picking us to be Stanley Cup contenders last year. Now you're saying we're not even good enough to make the playoffs because of what we see as one anomaly. Is that kind of the mentality maybe? And I know you haven't been with the group that long, but is that kind of the mentality the team almost has to have because of, I mean, who cares what people say anyways, but at the end of the day, what you guys know internally, you think you're capable of doing?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously you understand what the public perception may be, but more often than not, I think in a dressing room, our opinion differs significantly from what people may be saying on the outside. So um, like I said, there's a ton of belief in that locker room, and I was only there for a short period of time,
Right.
but even in that, when I got traded there, I guess looking at the standings, I remember thinking like, there's probably a slim chance this team manages to get into playoffs. But then you get in the room, and um, the focus is getting into playoffs. Guys want to make a run. Guys want to do that. There's a ton of belief, and um, I think with everybody, everything you hear from talking to the guys over the summer, hearing the coaching staff speak, like, I don't think everyone understands that there's a ton of potential in that locker room. So, regardless of what's going on outside, I think, having the belief internally is the most important thing, and that's absolutely there.
All right, well, let's wrap it up with an easy one. But what's up for the rest? There's not a lot of time left in summer. I can't believe we're already in September. Doesn't feel like that here in Winnipeg. It's 30 degrees
Yeah.
right now, so it's blazing hot. Doesn't feel like fall's around the corner, but it is. Hockey season's getting ready to get underway, Morgan. So what's up for you for the rest of summer, and when you'll be back in Winnipeg?
There's not a whole lot. I mean, the summer's wound down. I'm here for about another week. I think I travel to Winnipeg next weekend or early next week. So not a whole lot of time left. I'll try to take a few more swims in the ocean before I get landlocked in Winnipeg, and then just enjoy some time with mom and dad. So I'm gonna try to squeeze 1 or 2 more rounds of golf in this weekend if I have some time. But yeah, no, now it's pretty much all hockey mode, and it feels like it's been like that for the last few weeks. So just kind of rearing up and getting ready to come back and play some hockey, which will be fun.
Well, Morgan, if you want to go swimming in the ocean, you can do that, but you have to go all the way up to Hudson Bay, and it's a little bit cooler up there. So you might
Yeah.
want, and there's polar bears, so it's kind of exciting, but that's a
I'll
whole
pass on
nother,
that one.
yeah, it's a whole nother animal there. But
Yeah,
okay, well, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, Morgan. I
absolutely.
really appreciate it, and like our listeners and viewers will enjoy catching up with you and getting to know you a little better as they get to follow you with the Jets or Moose, whichever it is, next season here in Winnipeg.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks very much.